A special good morning to our panelists, Nedgine and Robert, and everyone who's connected right now. Welcome to our very first Connect Replenish webinar, where we will be talking about best practices for diaspora investing their time, knowledge, and money in Haiti. Replenish 509 is a Haitian social enterprise founded in December 2019 to work with leaders for systemic transformative change. We assist through connections and collaborations to make contributions that create ripple effects in the socioeconomic development in Haiti. Our key areas of intervention are diaspora integration, cultural heritage, and social entrepreneurship. We are an integral part of Kafou, Lespwa, which since March 2020 has reunited over 60 leaders representing a microcosm of Haitian society to co-create 3 scenarios of possible futures of Haiti. We've called them Noumele, Canson Fait, and Soleil Levé. Now these leaders who are a living example that even in today's extremely divisive society, with the right elements in place, Haitians can collaborate. And we are working on the next steps to get us towards Soleil Levé. Replenish 509 is committed to working towards the Soleil Levé scenario, which will require a lot of work from a lot of people. So let's get rolling. First off, I have to mention that it's extremely challenging working and living in Haiti at the moment. The extreme insecurity, kidnappings, political crises, collapsing economy, and the immense leadership gaps stalling the needed transformative systemic change make it extremely difficult to live and be productive here. To get us unstuck in the midst of this chaos, collective leadership is paramount. Returning to our nation's founding principles will enable us to get unstuck. L'union fait la force. We need to use our collective brain power and get to work. Easier said than done, but it's our country and we have to. This is why I founded Replenish 509. Today's webinar is part of our Connect to Replenish programming, which brings together socially conscious professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders to reflect and collectively take actions moving towards Soleil Levé. During my 11 years of living and working in Haiti, I've had the pleasure of learning about the work of very bright leaders doing amazing things, despite all the challenges. We need more support and more brain powers here on the ground. So if you're interested in learning how you too can reinforce socially conscious leaders, the heart of any economy, you're in the right place. We have 2 incredibly talented, open-minded, and socially conscious leaders here with us today. They each will share their personal experiences in their respective fields, the challenges they see, and as well as opportunities for professionals and enterprises to get involved in the smarter way. It's an opportunity to discuss the subtle nuances and discover things that Google can't teach you. When we look at the various challenges crippling development in the country, the economic and education systems are key hurdles. Our speakers today are transformative leaders in these 2 domains. Each speaker will have up to 8 minutes to present their thoughts, their initial thoughts, and then we have 25 minutes of Q&A. Time will fly fast, so please use the Q&A function to ask your questions throughout the webinar. We will do our very best to get to as many as possible. We have Madame Nedgine Paul-Deouli, who has been transforming education and developing leadership skills in Haiti over the past 8 years. But first, we will hear from Monsieur Robert Junior Paret, who has been transforming the banking system in Haiti. His biography is on the screen. He was raised in Haiti and earned a master's degree in economics with a concentration in finance and exchange from the University de Rouen in Normandy, France. With over 20 years of experience in the banking sector, he founded Groupe Profin in 2013, and they are definitely banking autrement. as their slogan correctly states. Robert, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's all yours.
Thank you, Regine. Thank you, Nedgine. I was saying how pleased I was yesterday to hear more about Nedgine path, and I'm certain everyone will enjoy to know more about her endeavor in education in Haiti. I'm very pleased to be here, to be with you. Always a pleasure to say yes to Regine. Hard to say no to Regine anyway. So 8 minutes to talk about what we are trying to change in finance in Haiti. It's a little short. Once I start talking about Haiti or finance, I talk a lot. So I'll do my best to keep it short. But as we are talking about connection with the diaspora, let me say quite quickly what we've been doing. I've been a commercial banker for over 20 years. I started very young at Citibank, then Unibank, and my last position in the commercial banking field was at Sociébank, where I was deputy CEO. Most of my time in the credit field was in the banking system was in the credit field, and I saw so many opportunities not getting through, or not having access to capital at all, or having access to capital but not in the best way that would help small companies, large companies, or companies from the diaspora get there. So in 2013, right after the legal framework in Haiti changed, where for the first time you could create an investment bank, we decided that this is what we would do, create an investment bank. But very quickly we found that it would be hard to have an investment bank without having a whole ecosystem with everything it takes: private equity firm, asset management firm, advisory firm. So progressively we've put all that, and this is what we call today Group Profin, which is composed of 8 companies, 6 of them based in Haiti, including a foundation, and 2 of them based in Jamaica, because we also understood that you cannot go by yourself and you have to connect with actually every potential partner. So we have 2 companies in Jamaica in the private equity field. But at the end of the day, even though we have initiatives outside of Haiti, our main goal is Haiti. And so basically we are creating the basis for most what those who are elsewhere out of Haiti know better, like mutual funds, like pension funds, and like private equity initiatives. Now, I've been asked to talk about the challenges and the opportunities. I will talk a little about the challenges for professional and enterprises, but I think these are the parts that are well known or well experienced by everyone. We all know about the global risk, the pandemic. Now we are in a world at war, and when it comes to Haiti, security matters, lack of investment, GDP shrinking for 3 years in a row, the brain drain. All of these are known challenges which makes things very difficult for companies. But I love to say that wherever there are challenges, there are also opportunities, and there are opportunities for those who have the willingness to transform. Because let's be clear that if we keep on doing things the same way we did them, if we take the same recipes, we'll have the same results. Therefore, we need to create that coalition of people of good faith who believe in new ways of doing things. And Regine talked a little about Kafou, Lespwa, and I'm a member of Kafou, Lespwa, and I've learned a lot from many people of many spheres in the community. And it gave me only more strength to keep on doing what we are doing. And when it comes to professional and companies, let me say a little about what we see as opportunities. Very first opportunity is the fact that we have a very young population, whether those living in Haiti and those living elsewhere. Why do I mention the youth of the population? Is because this gives us an opportunity to better use the technologies around. And when I think about blockchain, when I think about smart contract, when I think about crowdfunding, And I connect all of these with the how we can bring resources to small and medium enterprises. I see them as opportunities, obviously with companies who take the steps necessary to adapt and connect with the challenges of the world we are living in. And when I connect all this with what has been the beginning of Profin. A few years ago, I went and met with someone which is probably known by all of you, Kessner Farrell. And I told Kessner, I would love you to be part of that initiative. And he told me, well, you know, I'm talking more about macroeconomics. That's not really my ball court. And I said, Kessner, you've been talking about investing for so many years. But we need to create these investment opportunities. And I told Kessner, let me tell you, let me start by the end. Let me tell you where I want to get. And if it seems to be an opportunity for you, you'll say yes or no. And I told him my dream is at some point to have an ecosystem large enough where we can create different funds from the north, funds for the south, funds for Plateau Central, Côte Nedgine, funds for a northwest or west, and give the opportunity for diaspora members, those who want to live in Haiti or those who will never live in Haiti, the opportunity to invest in their country through modern mechanism where they can see, understand, have information, have the power to control and have a better control of their money, not how they've been doing investments so far, where I send some money to that cousin or that friend and initiatives end up not being so great. So this was our dream almost 9 years ago. April 1st will be the 9th anniversary of Profin, and we are getting there, despite the challenges, despite the obstacles, and we knew there would be. I'm not certain that we knew they would be so big, but the bigger they are, the better determined we are. And in the Q&A, I'll talk maybe a little more about the products that we developed in a market that is getting more and more regulated, and we are very happy about that. Central Bank last month released new regulations that makes the financial system more in line with the best practices that we see elsewhere. So we feel that many components, despite the challenges, are there to create a new ecosystem. And let me say that even though you guys see me in finance, we don't see our project as a finance project. We do see it as a social project where we have the ability to connect people with companies. And it just reminds me of that story when I went to Jamaica and the taxi driver was showing me so many companies saying, these are initiatives from the private sector. And I told him, in my country, taxi drivers are not so in love with private sector. And he told me, I'm a member of the private sector. I invested in the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So this is a summary of what my dream is, to develop the capital market so we can give more people the ability to feel that they are part of it. Thank you, Regine.
Perfect, Robert. Thank you so much. I think you gave us a good taste of so much more information we want to hear. Thank you for that. And congratulations on upcoming 9 years of Group Profin. I think you said it well, a coalition of people doing things differently with good faith. So I invite everyone who enjoyed that taste of Robert's experience to already start writing questions in the Q&A section of the webinar, so we can start going through those. And next, we have Nedgine Paul Deoli. She earned a bachelor's degree in history from Yale College and a master's in education in international education policy from Harvard Graduate School of Education. She is among the inaugural Obama Foundation Fellowship for her work leading Enseignants pour Haïti that she founded over 8 years ago. She has conducted extensive research and programming about the historical and cultural and socioeconomic factors contributing to Haiti's education system. She's a wealth of knowledge and experience, and I can't wait to hear what she has to say. Eugene, thank you for being with us. Please do take over. We're all ears.
Thank you so much, Regine. Thank you so much for this beautiful invitation. And thank you, Wilbert, for the inspiration as well that you've already started us with in this powerful webinar and in this important topic. It is a pleasure to be here with you all, and I will share some of the takeaways and some of the learnings and opportunities and challenges that not just myself as Nedgine, but also what I call the Lespwa Haiti family and our team and our community have been contributing toward as it relates to educational justice and community development in our dear and mighty Haiti. I'll share a little bit about Lespwa Haiti and then some of the challenges that I'd like to share with you all that I see as general, not just specific to education. And then as it relates to some of the opportunities that I think is really the heart of this conversation and the ways in which members of the diaspora can get involved in a really meaningful and sustainable way. So Lespwa Haiti, what is it? It is a movement for us and by us. We are building a network of Haitian civic leaders for education justice. And what that looks like is bringing together teacher leaders, parent leaders, school leaders, and student leaders, don't forget the students, all together in a way that builds on their leadership, unleashes their potential, and leverages the assets of our culture and our heritage and our history so that our education system actually becomes one that we need to build a citizenry and a nation of citizens for liberation. A lot of the information that you will receive about Lespwa Haiti sometimes tends to be summarized as what happens in the classroom. But while I have a few minutes today, I want to highlight the fact that we believe education is much bigger than what happens in the walls of a classroom. And that's why we involve parents, and that's why we involve all members of a community and what we refer to as a combat for liberation and for justice, because everyone has been touched by education and everyone has something to contribute to the ways in which teaching, learning, and education and identity are done differently. And so we're so grateful that after 8 years, we have a family of 350 civic leaders who are transforming not just how kids learn, but also how they see themselves and how they are involved in how their community can progress. As Robert mentioned, we are in Plateau Central, but we're also in the Altibonite, and we're really working to shift 5 communities and make them models for a national system. So for those who are from these areas, I have to shout them out: Gonaïve, Gomon, in the Altibonite, Miabale, Bukankari, Esh, in Plateau Central. So in terms of the topic of this webinar, I wanted to share, I'll start with some of the challenges that we have faced at Lespwa Haiti, and I know that is not unique to members and other, I would say, groups within our diaspora and in general as Haitian people that are involved in investing your time and your talent and your resources in meaningful change. The first piece that I'll mention is what it is related to suspicion and doubt. I think we have a history that we have to reckon with as it relates to negative experiences with aid, with nonprofits, with good intentions that create harm. I think there's a lot of legacy, right, that comes with carrying that burden, even if you weren't involved in efforts that may have gone astray. Now you want to come and do something good, but you're confronted by suspicion and you're confronted by doubt. What I would like to highlight as part of that challenge is we can't ignore the history and the legacy of harm. And a lot of that harm has created trauma, I think, within our people and within our communities. And so I'm grateful that as part of the Lespwa Haiti movement, we've decided to work with psychologists and social workers and historians to identify where the trauma comes from, because if we don't heal from it, the wounds will continue and will negatively impact whatever good intentions we have going forward. The other challenge I wanted to mention is that we cannot ignore so many of the systems that we're trying to work within. Education, finance, business, politics are still very much tied to a colonial past, right? There's a colonial, imperialist, and I would even go as far as to say racist and sexist history in a lot of these systems. And so I would encourage many of us to not just say, oh, that's a problematic system, but also start to identify the ways that we speak truth to power. So when you're dealing with philanthropy, when you're dealing with aid, when you're dealing with education, let's not just look at some of the Band-Aid and small fixes, but really zoom out and try to understand, how did the system become as it is today? Because if we're not addressing the root causes of some of this harm, we might unconsciously contribute to more harm. The last thing that I'll share in terms of a challenge that I think is not unique to Haiti and Haitians is our identity. I think we as a people are so proud of where we come from, but have not always done the difficult work of understanding the layers of our identity, our culture, our language, our religions with an S, all of the different ways in which our people are created. And I think that is sometimes what inhibits and creates complications for collaboration. I love what Regine said at the beginning. Haitians can collaborate. I would add, we must collaborate if we will see change. And so moving into some of the opportunities during our last few moments here in my remarks, and I'm very excited for your questions. That's what gets me most excited. But I'll share some of the opportunities I see, and just four. The first is how much work still needs to be done to understand the Haitian context. And when I say context, I encourage all of you, no matter what sector you work in, to go hyper local. When you're understanding context, please don't say the Haitian context. Understand that Gonaïve is not Paul Mago, is not Hesh, is not Port-au-Prince. And I would even zoom into Port-au-Prince to say Delma is not Tabao. I think if you do the hard work of understanding your context, you are already on the path towards sustainable solutions. And part of understanding the context is listening. We like to speak as people. We like to speak as Haitians. We all know this. But sometimes we don't dedicate enough time to truly listening at the feet of elders, at the feet of people who may not be elected officials. At Haiti, we listen more to grandparents than we do to government officials. Both have a lot to contribute, but we believe that you don't need to have a certain title or prestige to contribute to positive change. The second opportunity I see is related to collaboration, right? You'll hear Haiti talk a lot about kumbit, about leadership in the collective. I think it goes back to our roots and our DNA as a people. For many different historical reasons, there have been internal and external factors that have separated us, that have realized that if Haitians come together, we are powerful. And so I ask many of you, in any initiative you're looking to do, similar to what Haiti has done, put collective leadership at the center. You will notice at Haiti, we have 350 graduates. We don't have 350 projects. We have 10 or 12 initiatives where groups of people have come together to realize that together we are stronger. The third opportunity I see is where there are gaps. I would encourage all of you interested in getting involved and using your time and resources and talent to look for the gaps. I'll give one concrete example. We need great schools in Haiti, right? I'm in education, I would never dismiss that importance. But rather than starting another school, maybe you might need to look where there is a gap. For example, there are not enough Creole language books or people contributing to that effort for schools that already exist. And so I encourage all of you, as you're looking to do good work, try to avoid duplication by working with those who already do good work and adding your piece so that we can have a tapestry of great projects and great initiatives that create a stronger whole. And then the last thing I'll share as an opportunity is to avoid the spirit of competition, right? We are not in a race. We are not in a competition for who is most visible and who is most impactful. I think we need to start leaving behind some of that language and that spirit of competition so that at the end of the day, we have a common objective, no matter what field and what sector you choose to work in. So again, thank you for this opportunity to share a bit about myself and Haiti, and I look forward to the questions.
Well, Nedgine, I don't know how you did it. All that in 8 minutes. Thank you so much. That was really a wealth of knowledge. And I hope, you know, all of our participants were listening attentively, because those were a lot of gems. Thank you very much for that. We're going to switch over to the transition into the Q&A section. And before doing that, we're going to do a quick poll for the audience. We have one question that we're going to ask everyone right now. Stacy is going to start that poll and the results will be shared immediately. It's to really just get a feel, related to the topic of the webinar, where everyone's interests lie today, in the short term, within the next 6 months, what's more feasible for you? Are you interested in investing your time, your knowledge, or your money? So we'll have an estimate of that in the next couple of minutes. So we're gonna go ahead. Everyone should see it pop on your screen. Please go ahead and just answer that quick question. All right, answers are flowing in. Thank you, guys. And while everyone is doing that, we're gonna go ahead and start answering questions in the Q&A, just to give people a couple of seconds to do that. So the very first question, I believe, is directed to Robert. It's more of a suggestion or an idea, and I think it would be great if you could give a bit of your perspective on it. So why not create a diaspora investment fund based and regulated in the US for security of capital, but doing investing in viable projects in Haiti? Robert, that's all you.
Yeah, and I definitely want to answer that one. Let me tell you my experience. We created an investment fund in Haiti, a private equity fund. We raised close to $16 million. Most of it with money raised in Haiti. Even though we know that there is a lot of capital in the diaspora and elsewhere, we decided to do it, to start it here. If you believe in Haiti, you have to put your feet on the ground. And let me tell you that this is what opened so many doors, including in Jamaica. When I brought many missions from Jamaica, from the region, Trinidad, and elsewhere, and the first question they asked, did your people invest? Did your people contribute? This is the first thing that anyone else who wants to believe in what you're doing will be asking. Therefore, I fully welcome whatever will be done in the diaspora. But if in Jamaica in 1967, the private sector and the public sector did not start a very small stock exchange, which had very little, not that a bright future, if they did not start somewhere, I wouldn't meet that taxi driver saying, I'm a member of the private sector. So you need to start somewhere. And let me tell you, I met this taxi driver in Haiti. I met this guy which one day texted me on Facebook saying, Direct merci en pile, grâce à ou m'ai investi. I didn't know the guy. And he even told me, from now on, because he knew that by investing $1,000 in that private equity fund, he was part of the ownership of sausage plant based in Haiti, and he felt very proud. And this guy was not in Pétionville, not in Delma, not even in Kafou. He was in Saint-Louis du Sud. He didn't have a printer to print the piece of paper he needed to sign to be part of that investment. He took a bus, went down to Lekay, had it printed, put it in a bus to send it to Port-au-Prince. Just to tell you, and this guy, he really had the desire to invest. But I just let you think of the amount of people who would love to invest, even a little fraction of what they get, and would love to do it here in Haiti. So I will welcome whatever can be done elsewhere, but myself, I invest here, I stay here, I face the risk here, and I will make it better here.
Perfect, Robert. Thank you very, very much. Before moving on to the next question, just a quick results of the poll. We have 60% of people that are interested in giving their knowledge. So focusing on knowledge transfer, coaching, mentoring, they say they're available for that. The next is 50% said they would volunteer their time, and then 36% financial contributions. Very good. Thank you guys for that poll. Okay, so the next question that we have is from Charles Constantine or Constantin. Should we consider a change in the approach to help improve Haiti away from a capitalist economic platform to a new path for economics for the success of the country, where we redefine what the desired outcomes are away from generating a profit to a more outcomes from a more useful allocation of available capital within our current community? Who wants to take that one?
Happy to
Let me
start.
start. Regine fini. That's an opportunity for me to say I did not mention what is the motto of our group. Create wealth, spread wealth. And this is where we see finance as a social tool. And the example of this guy in St. Louis, you see, is one of the examples where you need resources to create more companies, more businesses, to invest in education, to create jobs, but you also need to connect it with the people. So having this ecosystem, yesterday I was listening to Nedgine talking about the benefit of ecosystem. So we definitely need to think of the whole thing in a different way. So those who have a little wealth in Haiti must start thinking that if you want to improve it, if you want to keep on growing here, you need to invest in the whole environment. But I'm certain that Regine can elaborate more on that social aspect.
Oh no, you said it perfectly, Wubel, and I agree 1000%. There is a key word in that question that I love is redefine, right? On our own terms, can we use the terms and make them our own? I mentioned philanthropy, I mentioned aid. They have not been of service to us and our people, and I would say the African diaspora in the world. And so what we've done at Lespwa Haiti is we've said, let's define what is of common good and what will be for the public good differently. So for example, we don't believe that scale is about numbers, right? It's not about how many people and how fast you reach them, but rather the positive depth of the change that we are contributing to, so that one day you don't need an organization to push for a better education system. It is co-created and sustained by the community members themselves because you've invested the resources differently. I also love what Wubel mentioned about starting the fundraising and the raising of resources in the country, right? We need to eliminate the stereotype that says there's no resources in the country. That is not true. At Lespwa Haiti, even if it was difficult, every year we set a minimum target that 30% of our budget will come from within the country, and we accept in-kind contributions. Let's not say that resources is only the dollars in the capital, right? We have local hotel and business owners who have contributed their spaces towards the Lespwa Haiti movement. It's not dollars, but we would not be able to meet as groups and have our professional development workshops without these restaurants and hotels and individual small business owners saying, here is my contribution towards educational justice.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nedgine. Very well said. I see the next question is directed to you. It says, good morning. This is from Marc Mathieu. The panelists who address the school system in Haiti is on point. However, the biggest issue with the school system in Haiti begins with a rudimentary issue. Teachers are not paid on time routinely. Is there any way we in the diaspora can address this issue? If so, how? Very good question.
Thank you for that question. And I do agree that it is core, right? And I would say it's core to our understanding of the importance of teachers, right? There are mechanisms, economically speaking, and systems solutions to making sure a teacher is paid a fair wage and on time. But I would like to take a step back and say, do we value teachers enough to put in place the economic and system solutions? Because right now, if you ask any teacher in particular outside of Port-au-Prince and Ocap in the big cities, they're just looking for something that brings in some income, but they don't believe that their profession is respected and valued as it should be. And for many of you, maybe there's an international and intergenerational crowd in this webinar, you know that that has not always been the history of our education system in Haiti. There was a period when our teachers were so respected, they were the exported resources to Francophone African countries. Imagine how well valued and how well equipped you had to be to become a teacher. And so one, I think we need to address the question that we don't respect teachers and the profession enough to even come to terms with a systemic and economic solution. That's number one. Number two, right now, we do not value all kids the same way in Haiti, period, right? Even if there is a law, we're very good at written laws, but once it comes to implementation, we are not following through and making sure that the per student cost that is spent in education in Haiti is the same in Boucankare as it is in Mirebalais, as it is in Port-au-Prince. And so one of the things that I would encourage all of you who are interested in this solution, I do agree with the question that there's a way for the diaspora to contribute. But I think we need to make sure we use diaspora resources in a way that influences policy change so that it's not one school or one region that's benefiting from having teachers paid on time and fairly, but rather influencing a policy change that the Ministry of Education, with reformers that exist within the system, can start to figure out how do we do things differently, including having more public schools and not just private schools.
Very good. Thank you, Nedgine. I see we have two more questions in the actual Q&A section, but I see some people are asking your questions in the chat. I'm going to ask that you do put it in the Q&A section so it doesn't get mixed up and we don't miss your question. Okay, so I see a question from John Hancock at 10:59, so I'm going to go ahead and ask that one, and it's for Robert. What is the best lesson you have learned by being an entrepreneur in Haiti?
That risk come with opportunities. Obviously, I've read it, I've heard it, but and let me start by saying that I was not built, conceived, or taught to be an entrepreneur. My parents built me to be a banker or something that they would call a director or something like that, and they were almost crying when I said that I'm living my sweet spot to go take some risk, and I definitely I would do it every time if I had to redo it. Not only because we had the opportunity of creating something that did not exist, but also because of all the benefits it carries. And obviously there were a lot of challenges, starting something absolutely new with no regulation at the beginning, with no precedent. It was a big challenge, but looking back now, a few years after, very few people would bet on our capacity to start from zero and create now the first and only licensed investment bank of Haiti so far, with an asset under management of $50 million, having raised $60 million locally for our private equity firm, raised $4 million in a week on our asset management initial public offering that we did locally, and having a whole ecosystem valued at over $100 million. All of this happened in Haiti in the context that you guys know, obviously with all the risk, and not my company. Today, these are public companies owned by multiple shareholders, and we created a lot of wealth and a lot of hope for so many people. And all of this despite the challenges. So this definitely is the biggest lesson, and I want to share it as much as I can. And this is why I want to say thank you to Regine to give me the opportunity to say it can happen. And we do foresee a lot of challenges ahead, but we also do see so many opportunities and so many reasons to keep on doing what we are doing.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Robert. Okay. Okay, I see there's a question from a JP Boisson. Robert, which sectors would you feel would be most adequate for the diaspora to invest in Haiti? Which would make a good investment from a pure financial perspective, but also would make a positive contribution to Haiti?
If I was to pinpoint one sector, I would be a very bad advisor, because the best way to invest actually is to diversify risk. So I would definitely not advise, even though some industries may seem more attractive, even more secure, you never know when challenges will come. Let me say that we invested, for instance, in the tourism industry in Jamaica, and it seemed to be so promising, but we did not anticipate COVID. And guess what? For the last 2 years, Haiti outperformed our Jamaica investment by far. So who would say that? So you never know where the risk will come from. So you don't put all your eggs in the same basket. That's the first comment. Now, where can we have the most impact is definitely in picking these industries where there is a real capacity of creating added value. And it happens that these industries are those who need resources on the longer term. First, because when you invest in agriculture, in tourism, in infrastructure, you don't need these short-term credit lines or this money that the bank can come and say, you need to pay back right away, or you need to pay an installment every month. Not bad-mouthing banks. Banks are great and are useful, but there are certain type of investment where you need resources on a long term, or as shareholder, where the money will be redistributed as dividends and so on. So any industry that can have a positive impact on the environment first, but create added value in the economy on the long term is a good bet. And this is where we are putting our money for the time being.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. I see we have 8 minutes and 7 pending questions. I'm going to go to Bianca Bilot because I know she had asked that question earlier and it got lost in the chat. So how can the diaspora practically make a change in Haiti? How can we participate directly with an organization to make a difference? I feel like either of us could answer that one. You know, the thing that I always recommend, because I get this question a lot, is, you know, follow your passions and follow your skill set. So, because when you're getting involved with Haiti, it requires a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of thought, a lot of relationship building. Therefore, whatever you choose to be involved in, make sure it's something that speaks to your heart and your mind, because that's what it will require in order to have a positive impact. I mean, you have several organizations, whether you want to go through a Chamber of Commerce, for example, the American Chamber of Commerce, if you want to look at the business side, has a diaspora committee. Within Replenish 509, we just signed a partnership with 22 organizations within the diaspora. So we can take a more systematic approach to make sure that the efforts that are done within the diaspora can be better aligned with the needs on the ground. You know, so it's little by little, and with getting things done more in a systematic approach. This is the one that I always recommend. Nedgine spoke very, very clearly on the need to just not work based on assumptions, but really get into the weeds and the details to understand. So that would be the advice that I have for that. I don't know if Nedgine or Robert, you want to add to that.
Yes, Regine, I agree with you. I would just add 3 things quickly. One is reach out. I love what Robert said about he didn't see himself as an entrepreneur, maybe others didn't. I did not consider myself entering into this path, but my work and my journey began by reaching out and connecting the dots. Number 2, decide if you want to be in a transactional relationship where it's just one way, or a mutually transformative relationship, because those are 2 very different categories of investment and time, especially when it comes to not being physically in the country. It's possible, but if you're not clear on your intention, you can either be disappointed or not meet expectations, right? And then the third piece that I would share is be an informed contributor. I can't tell you how many people I've met who have great intentions, but that's not enough, right? You can do a lot of harm and you can contribute negatively to an effort or leave frustrated because maybe that you weren't well informed enough about the input that you were looking to share.
Amazing, Nedgine. Thank you. Thank you for that. I see a question from an anonymous attendee. Nedgine, this is for you. Your presentation was great. I did not previously know about your organization. We shared the websites to both Profin and Enseigner pour Haiti in the group chat, so everyone has that. So you can browse through that afterwards. And she says, but I'm happy to hear about the wealth of knowledge that you're sharing with the youth. What kind of impact do you think that implementing mental health support in schools will have in the future of the Haitian youth?
Thank you for that question and for the appreciation. I share it with all of our team members. Number one is healing, right? I think it's a word that I think sometimes we dance around. We're not great in our culture and in our heritage at talking about mental health and psychological supports. But I think there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. I'll give a couple of clear examples. The scope and the impact of a natural disaster ravages a generation. And people use the word resilient to celebrate how 2-3 days after the 12th of January 2010, people returned to work as if it was normal. That's not resilient. That's harmful. That is toxic. We didn't have a chance to heal in mind, body, and soul. And so I think the healing allows you to address some of the trauma you've experienced and then clean your space to be able to welcome new information. Because one of the things we do in our work is realize, I'll give an example, corporal punishment, bâton, right? That is based on the trauma you experienced as a child. You received it as discipline, and so now you reproduce it. If we don't have a chance to heal from that pain, we're just going to continue to create harm and violence in the next generation. So that's the first impact, is healing. The second impact, I believe, that psychological and kind of social work helps us contribute to is a sense that we are in this together, right? Because if you do a lot of work to address some of mental health and psychological health concerns, you start to realize that I cannot heal if my neighbor is in pain, right? If my neighbor, if my classmate, if my fellow teacher is struggling because they haven't received their pay, or the system isn't respecting us as teachers or as parents, can we come together to find a solution collaboratively? And so in our experience, when you start to prioritize mental health, it starts to accelerate the value and the importance that is placed on a collective solution.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nedgine. We have time for one last question, and it's addressed to Robert. Can you address the security and stability elephant in the room as it relates to investments? Are security and stability prerequisites for investments? If so, does Haiti today has the requisite security and stability for investments? Tough one.
The answer is in the question. My answer is that investment and commitment is the prerequisite for security. You cannot have a social security without having jobs, without having the community feeling involved in what's going around. And I want to connect my answer to that of Nedgine. And we have the lesson so many times again and again, and not only in Haiti. Look at the pandemic. No country could prevent themselves, could have barriers. So if you don't take care of the community, if you don't invest in the community, you cannot expect to have secure investment. It happens that Haiti is a country with over 11 million mouths to feed. Why does DR see Haiti as an opportunity and Haitians don't see Haiti as an opportunity? Why do other countries see us as an opportunity and Diaspora doesn't see Haiti that much as an opportunity? While we have the language, we have the culture, we have the history, we have everything, we have so many things that we can master and take benefit. Metaverse is a reality. Combien moun nan diaspora qui gen tan acheter environnement citadel pour faire metaverse? M'pa connaît. So and how many people would benefit from that? When I bring people from the Caribbean, they are in love with the food in Haiti. They agree that there is no better food than in Haiti. So we have so many things that we should take as an advantage. And someone in the group chat, I think, wrote that the situation in Port-au-Prince does not reflect the whole country. Et moi, Nedgine a souri en pile là. Peut-être que le plus stressé passé Nedgine côté mieux là. So, I myself, my commitment is to work so we create more jobs, more small businesses, giving access to capital, giving hope. This is how I myself fight against security, the insecurity. And only by doing this, we can start alleviating the situation and obviously fight against what is real. There is so much poverty. We need to fight it, but we need to fight it how? By creating wealth and by spreading it.
Thank you so much, Robert. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. I feel like we could easily go for another hour, but it is the middle of the business day. So we're gonna wrap it up. You know, I hope that everyone found this webinar to be informative and that you enjoyed it. You know, we don't want people to limit their engagements with Haiti to a leap of faith, but rather more informed decisions with better insights and connections to people actively working on the ground. A special thank you to Nedgine and to Robert for connecting with us today. I know your time is precious, but your practices are priceless. So thank you. Okay. I also want to thank the audience for being connected with us today and your great questions. I hope more of us will work towards the Soleil Levé scenario, where more brains need to be part of this transformative process. This webinar is part of Connect to Replenish programming. So next up, we have a professional services event on May 13th. So if you're a professional or you know one that offers services like a lawyer, an accountant, marketing, sales, and are looking for more clients, this is an event you don't want to miss. And also, if you're an entrepreneur or you know of one that would like to improve their business systems, this is a way to connect and get some free consultations. Or also, if you just want to support small and medium enterprises, which is the heart of any strong economy, and you just want to contribute and support, the May 13th event, the professional services event, is ready for you. So we invite everyone also to make an effort and make some contributions to better enable social enterprises working for transformative change in Haiti. Sponsorship opportunities are available through Connect to Replenish. The link is available on the chat to take you straight there if you do want to make a contribution. But before letting you go, we will end with some more music, and we'd appreciate it if you can participate in a very quick survey. Thank you all again for being with us, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you and have a blessed day.